Indian investors are increasingly looking beyond borders, not just for returns but for global access and mobility. At the 25th edition of the International Real Estate and Immigration Expo in Mumbai, over 24 global players are coming together to showcase overseas property and residency opportunities. From the US to Europe and the Middle East, the focus is clear: diversify portfolios, unlock international markets, and explore residency-linked investments. Now, the EB5 program continues to evolve, offering Indian investors unique opportunities for US residency through strategic investments. The panel today here will address the most pressing questions shaping EB5 decisions in this year, which is 2026. Whether it's eligibility or due diligence, to timelines, to new visa categories, our discussion will definitely provide clarity and actionable insights with all the experts here. So let me quickly introduce, we have with us Mr. Girish Mohole, CMB Regional Centers. We also have Mr. Akshat Gupta, US Immigration Fund. Joining us is Mr. Rishabh Gandhi, Civitas Capital Group. And of course, we have Mr. Rohit Turkud, member CSG Law. Thank you all so much for joining us. I think to begin with, Girish, I would like to actually start, today we have a great audience here to understand about the EB5 visa. When we're looking at the political scenario here, when we're looking at, how 2026 has started, why does the EB5 program continue to still stand out as one of the preferred pathways for Indian investors who are actually seeking US permanent residency?
Right. So firstly, we need to understand that EB5 is not a new program. EB5 has been in place since 1990. Specifically, the Regional Center program has been in place since 1992. Now, of course, the program has evolved over the years. Specifically, when we talk about the current scenario, the EB5 program is governed by a law, which is known as Reforms and Integrity Act of 2022, which is valid at least until September 30th of 2027. So no matter what happens, no matter what the noise that you are hearing in the market or generally in the news, EB5 program has been stable and stabilized through this law which we have in place. So USCIS, which is the governing authority, which adjudicates all the petitions for EB5 and other immigration petitions as well, that is the adjudicating authority which also looks at all the EB5 petitions which goes in through the Reforms and Integrity Act of 2022. So from that perspective, we foresee that this particular law is going to be governing this EB5 program at least until 2027. Now, we are also going to discuss the grandfathering effect, which is valid until September 30th, 2026. But that's another discussion. But to answer specifically about your question about the stability of this program has been stable. This program has delivered across decades. And that is something which is one of the comforting factors as far as EB5 visa is concerned.
Great. So it's stability, which you've been seeing over the past, many years. Akshat, now what about the eligibility criteria? If you can tell us about that, and also the investment threshold looking at 2026.
Sure. Firstly, thank you for having us here today, and probably answering to the previous question as well. I think why EB5 continues to be the most preferred choice for all Indian-born applicants is because when you look at other avenues or visa categories available to the US, it's still retrogressed or backlogged by a period of 3 to 5 years. So, which is primarily why the fastest and probably the most secure way of securing a US green card as of today for those who are born in India is the EB5 visa program. Answering your specific question with respect to investment amount, I think it stands at $800,000 as of today, as of the EB5 Reform and Integrity Act of 2022. Anything else that you'd like me to add to that?
I think more, yeah, you've already cleared the investment, and any specific for eligibility in case anybody wants to clear that out as well?
I guess from an eligibility perspective, the most important part is investing $800,000 of qualified source of fund, and we have an expert like Rohit here, so he's probably the best person to shed some more light on that. But it covers an EB5 investment, covers an investor, the spouse, and children under the age of 21. So it's not $800,000 per person or per family member. There are two pillars of this program or this investment. The first pillar is you investing a minimum of $800,000 of qualified source of fund, which essentially means that this money needs to have a proper trail, it needs to be documented and accounted money. And the second pillar of the program is that your investment needs to create a minimum of 10 jobs per investor application. So as long as these two pillars or these two requirements are met by you or by your investment, you should probably be on the safe path of securing a green card.
Okay, so Rohit, before I come to you, for more clarification on that, since you always say the only legal person here and lots more questions coming to you, Rishabh, I just want to come across to you quickly that, since we have three of you from the regional centers, how really do the regional centers add value in guiding investors through project selection, structuring, and most importantly, the oversight, right, when we're looking at the ongoing oversight?
So, like Girish mentioned, right, regional center is a passive way to get your EB5 green card. So we basically act as your fiduciary. We go out in the market, run due diligence on, multiple projects. We try not to raise, money for our self-sponsored projects because then there can be a conflict of interest, right? So we do that, then there is an angle of USCIS also being involved here. They like to ensure that, we are meeting all the compliances regulatory wise, audits. They like to visit the site, etc. So think of the regional center, as your fiduciary. So we act in your interest and, we ensure that all these, tick boxes are complied for. And on the fund management side, we are ensuring that funds are deployed, in a manner where they are creating jobs. Like Akshat mentioned that, all of these investments per investor has to create 10 or more jobs. So again, these job creation has a specific way on, where this money is spent. So it is our job to ensure that, we are auditing it and, satisfying all the USCIS conditions on that.
So a lot of work which the centers are doing. And Rohit, if you could quickly, take us through the key legal stages when it comes to the EB5 case.
Sure, thank you. Pleasure being here with all of you today. I think the first thing that you're going to be doing is figuring out who your attorney is to help you through the process. That's probably the most critical thing, and that's the individual who's going to be with you for the next 5 to 7 years through your EB5 journey. You're going to in parallel be working with a regional center, which is like one of these three that are up here on stage, who have a reputation, who have a record of having successfully done several EB5 applications. At a high level, those are the two things you're going to accomplish. Your immigration attorney should not be giving you guidance on where to invest your money, because you do need to be properly licensed in the United States to give any kind of financial advice. But certainly the regional centers can pitch their own products and explain to you the differences. But those are your two main things. You need your attorney and you need a regional center through which you're going to invest your monies.
Okay, so I just want to go on, ask another further questions. How do you approach documenting and also validating the lawful source and path of funds, especially if it's a complex case? How does one manage that?
Yeah, you've raised the most critical part of the EB5, because all these regional centers that are here will have good projects. They will be offering you good guidance. The source of funds, which is essentially the most critical part, you have to be able to trace every single penny that you're going to be investing, roughly to the tune of I'm going to give you a rough figure of about $850,000. You need to be able to trace that through your bank statements. You need to be able to trace also the path of the funds. So I'll just give you a very quick, small example. Let's say that you are going to be selling mutual funds that you own, or maybe let's say it's a stock that's called Infosys. But to buy Infosys, you bought and sold Wipro. And to buy Wipro, you bought and sold TCS. And that's where your money really started. You got to trace your monies from the purchase of TCS, the sale of TCS, the purchase of Wipro, the sale of Wipro, the purchase of Infosys. I think you get my idea. So you need to be very careful about documenting that source of funds, because without that documentation, you will not get an approval.
From an immigration and investment perspective, what, according to you, really defines a strong as well as a reliable project for the EB5?
EB5 projects are majorly categorized in today's times into two categories, which is TEA, or Targeted Employment Area projects, and non-TEA, which is non-targeted employment area projects. The USCIS has obviously set aside 32% of allocations per year for TEA projects, which are essentially rural, high in employment area, and infrastructure projects. Rural projects are essentially in an area which has less than 20,000 people. High employment area projects, in a very simple word, are like your urban area projects, which could be in New York City, Miami, just to name a few cities. And infrastructure projects are generally projects which have a public-private partnership perspective to it. What defines a good project is a twofold question, I would say. One is obviously you need to look at the regional center that is sort of bringing the project to you. You need to obviously look at the track record of the regional center. How many people have they done this for? Having said that, past track record doesn't guarantee future success, which is where you do your, detailed due diligence into a specific project that you're looking at. When you look at a specific project, you'd probably want to see what is the location of the project, who's the developer, who's the sponsor. Most importantly, when we spoke about job creation as being the second pillar of the program, you'd want to spend some time in understanding how many investors, EB5 investors, is the project raising, and as compared to that, how many jobs are being created. Or give you confidence that this project is likely to be able to make money and be profitable at the end of its tenure is what will help you decide whether this is a good investment for you. Because at the end of the day, an EB5 investor is making this investment because sure, they want their green card, but there's obviously an expectation to get your money back, which will eventually only happen if
it's a good
the real
investment,
estate asset
yeah.
is solid in its nature.
Okay, I think that really sums that really well. Rishabh, what according to you are the factors? Of course, what Akshat said, would you like to add the factors which investors, again, when they're wanting to, look at a project, what they should be evaluating to assess the credibility, the safety, and also track record of a project?
Yeah, luckily, what we've realized, and I think all the regional centers would agree here, is, one size does not fit all, and, everybody has a different risk appetite, right? So, just to speak for us, we have projects, which offer a higher return, and we are very openly saying, okay, those come with a high risk. Most of our investors, of course, choose for projects which are a low risk, so you also need to look at, okay, where is this money sitting in the capital stack, right? Is there a bank, that is backing this project, happy to lend money, to this project? What happens if the regional center is not able to raise the EP5, right? Would the project run out of, funds? So I think these are, a couple of important things that you need to look at. The most important thing is the exit strategy, right? Whether this project 5 years down the line, when it becomes eligible for a refinance or a sale, will be able to fetch the right value to be able to repay these investors back.
Girish said, what happens if an investor misses a window? What are the risks? What are the uncertainties that they may face?
So, as of now, there's not much clarification as to what happens after 30th September 2026. I call US a land of lawsuits as well. So, definitely if, you miss the deadline and you plan to do that, you can work with Rohit and, ensure that, he can win that battle for you. So
Rohit is the man again here, right?
I'm going to give a simple answer. I would not file an application after September 30th, 2026 without getting clarity from the immigration, because you could file it. You've got clients who've invested their hard-earned money, $800,000, without knowing whether the immigration is going to adjudicate your cases or not. I am very conservative on issues like that and protecting them, so I would not be filing it. I don't even think that the regional centers would be willing to give me their documents to file, because they are then on the hook for returning the monies if they're not adjudicated.
Yeah.
So it just complicates everybody's life. But I think Girish may
So
want to-
decide by 2026. please. So
Yes,
September
you
2026.
have to decide. And it's not deciding on September 15th that you want to do it by September 30th.
Yeah.
You've got to remember that the process with the attorneys for doing the source of funds, you've got to allow them at least somewhere between a month to 2 months. So those are things that you need to start planning now, which is the reason why you're here at this event. So take advantage of this event, take advantage of the information you're getting here, and hopefully you'll be able to do some homework and come to the right conclusion.
Okay, so
Just one
I think
point to
Girish
add
also-
to 100% agreed with what Rohit said. But one thing to remember, the grandfathering provision is a feature of this new law. Now, we discussed that EB5 has been in place since 1990s. Before the new law came into picture, there was no grandfathering. So what we have seen as a fact, as part of the history, is that EB5 program in some shape or form has already been renewed. We have already seen that. Now, I'm not saying that someone should take that additional element of risk, whether the petition will be adjudicated or not. And 800,000 obviously is a huge sum of money. But as far as what we have seen in the past, all those petitions which were filed before the sunset were in limbo. So 100% agree with what Rohit said, that you don't want to be in that limbo. So September 30th would be that deadline for all practical purposes. But as we have seen in the past, the program has always survived in some shape or form, so we hope that would happen as well.
Global investments, residency options, and what it means for the Indian investors. More on the other side. Welcome back. Before the break, we were looking at how Indian investors are increasingly exploring global real estate, not just for returns, but for residency and mobility. At IREX in Mumbai, that interest is taking center stage, with developers from across the world tapping into this growing demand. Well, taking this conversation forward, I have the opportunity again to, like a quick round again with Girish to, I think, some more questions. Let me quickly introduce. We do have Girish Mohle, Vice President, India, CMB Regional Centers, USA. Thank you so much, Girish. I think to begin with, for us to understand, our viewers as well, not just here, but even on NDTV, what is CMB Regional Centers' main business? If you can explain that in simple words.
So CMB Regional Centers, as the name goes, is a regional center. We function in the US. We work specifically in EB5 visa domain. So our main job is to work as a fiduciary on behalf of the EB5 investors. We source projects which will qualify EB5 investors for EB5 program. Just to summarize the EB5 visa itself, EB5 visa allows investors, which is the main applicant, spouse, and unmarried children below 21, to secure a permanent residency, which we colloquially call as the green card, for the US. And we source these projects wherein you can invest 800,000 US dollars and secure a green card. So that's our main business.
Okay, since you've told us about the main business, what really are the benefits of the EB5 visa?
So firstly, EB5 visa grants you the permanent residency. So as you must have heard, a lot of non-immigrant categories like H1B, there is a lot of uncertainty. So if some student who is studying in the US, they have optional OPT programs, which are valid for 1 to 3 years. But after that, you have to look for a job and you need to have a sponsor. So all these non-immigrant categories are basically temporary visas which are allowed by the US government. What EB5 allows you to have is a permanent residency wherein you don't need a sponsor. So you can run your own business, you can get employed, you can study in the US without any worries as to your status while you are in the US. And EB5 visa specifically not just allows the main applicant, but the spouse and the children to be permanently relocated to US without any worries when it comes to the status in the US.
So the role of an immigration, the regional centers are very critical, like you rightly said. But yes, you've also shared that they have happened, maybe 10%, 15%. There have been success stories. Paperwork is important, documentation, which you rightly said, of course, at the end of the day. And most importantly, you need to do your due diligence, your own homework before you go to a regional center once you've made up your mind. And September 30th, 2026 is by when one needs to decide and take that plunge if they want to. Thank you so much, Girish. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
The products that we are showcasing and the projects that we're showcasing is quite unique for this market. We all know that there's a transition of interest from GCC towards other directions, such as Georgia, because in compared to Dubai, what we have is an exactly same product, best taxation systems. The projects that we have and that we offer ties directly to the needs of Indians.
India as a market for the EB5 investors is one of the largest across the globe, especially for those who are already in the US on a valid visa category, may it be H1B or an F1. So we cater to the clients in India as well as those Indians who are already in the US as well. IREX has been phenomenal. We've been associated with IREX at multiple events, at multiple locations, and we continue to look forward to being associated with them in the years to come as well.
We think that the Indian market has a big potential, and we would be very glad to be able to expand to this market with people who are so welcome and kind and easy to work with. We are seeing big interest, a lot of people being here, and we are very glad that we are here and being able to give a part of Greece, to show you a part of Greece and the services we offer.
currently we are showcasing two projects, CMB Group 102, which is an industrial logistics project in Cincinnati, Ohio. The other project is CMB Group 96, the Ellis, which is a student housing project in Eugene, Oregon. So these are two options that we currently have. As far as India market is concerned, it is one of the leading markets, probably the second most leading market for EB5 visa after China. And currently we are seeing a lot of demand from Indian investors as well. IREX has been a great platform to expose and to speak with a lot of prospective investors throughout India. I think they are going to have another event in Singapore next month as well. We look forward to attending that as well.
Indian market is great for us. Essentially, that's why we're coming every 3 months, because we actually have a very good connection. Indians and Greeks have similar culture, similar communication style. They can understand each other. They are business oriented. So essentially, we speak the same language, I would say, very practically. And Indians recognize the value of the Greek market overall. My experience has been great as always. Busy, very busy. I cannot call anyone today. They've been calling me, I cannot answer. We've had some very meaningful conversations with people, both from the B2B and the B2C side.
I think Indians have been the largest consumers of EB5, and US remains the most fertile soil for education and innovation. So we regularly showcase at India. Our plan is to help parents do it for their children. We have executives who are looking at green card for a better career opportunity. I think we've been participating with IREX for several years now, and I love the way how the advertisements are taken care of. It's completely passive for us. So we come here, we do our job, and we let IREX and the team who are the marketing experts manage these events for us.
We see a lot of potential in Indian market, and we see a growth number from Indian visitors visit Thailand last year. It's become the top 3 to Phuket. That's why we think Thailand property might be potential for Indian buyers to invest in Thailand. We have a great experience here. IREX is a very good platform, connect us with real estate agent and also international investor.
As Indian investors look outward with sharper intent, the conversation is no longer just about owning property abroad. It's about access, mobility, and future security. And with platforms like IREX bringing the world closer, global real estate is fast becoming a serious part of the Indian investment story.